Hey again, and welcome back to A Pint of Astrobiology, the show where I discuss the latest conundrums in the field of astrobiology over a pint of beer. My name is Ben Pierce. I'm an astrobiologist, an amateur brewer of beer, and your humble host. And today I'm drinking a Czech dark lager that I brewed a couple of months ago. This style is known for having a lot of espresso and chocolate aromas and flavors, and it's got a little bit of bitterness just on the back of the tongue. It's very, very refreshing. Now in today's episode, I'm going to be discussing one of the most topical debates in origins of life research, which is whether a giant asteroid, somewhere between a quarter to a third the size of our moon, impacted early Earth and created the conditions which led to the emergence of life. Now let's begin by positioning ourselves in time. When would have this happened? Now, the origin of life occurred somewhere between 4.5 and 3.7 billion years ago. Now, we can't narrow it down to an exact date, but I'm pretty sure it happened on a Tuesday. Now, somewhere within this time frame, there was a period when Earth was habitable but lifeless. And it's the job of astrobiologists like me to try and figure out what conditions in this period could have produced first life. Now, one hypothesis is that life emerged in a warm little pond from hydrogen cyanide. This is indeed the same molecule that's so toxic that it's considered by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons as a weapon. How ironic that a molecule that kills us may have been involved in producing life in the first place. But life is full of irony. If you put hydrogen cyanide in water, it bonds with itself and produces adenine, which is a key component to DNA and DNA's older and more unstable brother, RNA. Chemists have also used hydrogen cyanide in the lab to produce all sorts of other molecules of life. So how does this connect to the large asteroid hypothesis? Well, the answer is that large asteroids produce a lot of methane, which is a key ingredient in hydrogen cyanide production. See, methane, or CH4, isn't abundant in the inner solar system. In the atmospheres of Earth, Venus, and Mars, carbon dioxide is the main carbon species. This is because it comes out of our volcanoes and it's constantly replenishing. So how do we get methane in the atmosphere? Well, the answer is a large asteroid brings in a lot of fresh iron and heats up the atmosphere, and these two conditions create a lot of methane in the atmosphere and therefore a lot of hydrogen cyanide. But, as with every hypothesis in science, it's our job to poke holes in it and see if it still floats. And the main thing to consider with this hypothesis is that methane is a greenhouse gas, and atmospheric models show that you cannot have a habitable surface with the amount of methane that's produced from a giant impactor. So there's something still to figure out if this hypothesis is indeed correct. One suggestion is that maybe hydrogen cyanide was produced when Earth was uninhabitable, and then was stockpiled in solids, such as bonding with iron or maybe in organic hazes, and then was later released from these solids when Earth was habitable and ponds existed on the surface, and life formed from this stockpile. But there isn't really enough evidence to say, one way or another, whether this is plausible. Now, it's my general opinion that we shouldn't be emotionally attached to any scientific hypothesis. This happens all the time in science when big-name scientists defend their favorite hypothesis as if it came directly from the gods. Now, I can't really completely blame them because the system that they went through sort of trained them to do this. For example, they call it a PhD defense, where you have to defend your hypothesis or your thesis in front of a committee. And this structure ends up creating scientists who are afraid to discuss the weaknesses in their hypotheses, and sometimes are just straight up disrespectful when other hypotheses are brought up. So I think we all need to chill the F out, have a beer, discuss hypotheses openly as if none of us truly knows the answer. You can have your opinion, just don't be a dick about it. And that's all for today. Cheers.